Hi guys, how are you? Hope you're doing well and you're all fine. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for telling friends about the channel. I see the numbers shooting up. I see the subscribers increasing and I'm very grateful. Special thanks go out to Kazungu, Erica. You're much loved. Thank you so much for watching and liking these videos as and when they drop in. Today, as promised before, that I would make pastries. For those of you who missed the pastry bit of making samosas at home, or any kind of samosa, whether it's beef or meat or peas, today you're in luck because we are going to be learning how to make pastries at home so that we can be able to stuff our pastries and have a good time during the festive season. You don't have to rush to the shop to go buying pastries anymore or samosas anymore. For those of you who are lucky, friends in America, India, Jamaica, Nigeria, UK, where you are and pastries are sold in shops, that is very good for you. But for those of you who have no place to buy pastries, and you would love to have your samosas stuffed and done at home, today we are going to be learning how to make pastries. So join me as we look at the ingredients that will help us to make our pastries. We'll first of all need some flour, some salt, oil, and water. This is room temperatured water. It's not boiled or anything done to it. We'll need a board and a pin, a bowl for kneading, and then we are going to also need a spatula for flipping and a teaspoon for measuring of our oil and our other ingredients. And then I'm going to need this tray to put my pastries as and when they are done kneading, for example, and then the other one will be used when I've finished roasting them on heat. Now, before anything goes on, we just start off by getting our bowl and putting in some water. Remember, this is room temperatured water. You don't have to boil it before using it. You can just get water, pour in a bowl, depending on how much flour you've got. Now, I don't have much flour, as you can see there. So what I'm going to do is put some salt in my bowl, like you can see. This is not, it doesn't have to be a lot of salt. It's just a pinch of salt to help give our pastry some taste. Now I'll mix my water with salt and let my salt dissolve. Then I'll add the flour. Guys, making pastries is as easy as ABC. These are things probably we don't know many times how to do at home, but we can do and have ourselves a good time making and eating. Now I'll use half of it and then use the other half just in case I've used too much. I've used too much water. So once you've done that, you mix. This is one of those things that you do with your hands. Either way, they'll have to get dirty. And how you know your pastry is ready is when the flour does not stick to your hands. So as you can see, my hands are the scale that I use to know whether it's ready or it's not ready. So you knead until you see the desired texture of your flour. I'm going to use up all this flour, but little by little. This is like half a kilo of flour, and I'm hoping it can give me about 10 pastries, which if you split up will give you 40 samosas. If I'm lucky, I'll get more, but I wouldn't be surprised if it only gave me 10. Now because I've added flour, I need it not to stick on my hands. Now the secret to get good pastry, it shouldn't be too soft, because if it is too soft and sticky, it will give you pastry that will split up on you when you're stuffing. It shouldn't be too hard, because then it will be unfoldable. So it's got to be that right consistency that is not sticking, is not hard, yet right. So if we inject in as much time in that one, we will be able to get ourselves good pastries out of this. And once you've done them, the satisfaction, guys, that you get from knowing you did them from scratch, you will feel proud even when it's Christmas time and there are people coming over. You will be glad, and the praises won't end about you and how you made them. They would think actually you bought them. So I need to use more of this flour. I'm adding it in. That will mean I'll also use some water, but I'm sparing some because just in case my water is over the top, I don't want my pastry to be sticky. I've just added a few tablespoons of water and I'm kneading again. You knead until you see your hands are clean and they don't have any trace of flour, and the bowl you're using is dried up and the dough gets off easily. Guys, as you can see, now my pastry is almost ready, if not ready. I want you to see that it's no longer sticking on my hands. It is soft enough. So you could use the same measurements, as in gauge and see. If your hands are drier, better than they were before, then definitely your dough, as you can see, it easily gets off my bowl. So that shows me it is ready. Then time for me to get some little bit of oil, like maybe 2 teaspoons. This will help me. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of oil it is. It is just a little bit, like 2 teaspoons of oil. This is just to help me size my dough, because without the oil, it may be hard for me to size up my dough and be able to make pastries. So I put just a little bit and knead it so it goes in and makes my dough more easy, much more easy to divide up. Remember I said I wanted 10 pastries. If I can't get those, then I'm good. Because if I get 10 pastries, it would mean I would get 40 samosas, because each pastry is supposed to give me 4 samosas. And 4 times 10 would give me 40. So as you can see, my hands are dry and clean. That means it's more than ready. Now it's time for me to divide it into the number of pastries that I need. I'll get my board and put it on, and then get my knife and slice it up to the point that I'll get my 10 pastries. So this would, knowing this would give me maybe 2. When I slice it up like that, now remember guys, you size up your pastry according to the size of your pan. If your frying pan is small, don't overstretch your pastry. It will not come out well. So you need to be able to size up your frying pan and be able to make pastries according to the size of your pan. Now I've cut up my pastry. Time for me to make round balls ready for my pastry. making. Now remember I told you I need a tray. This is my tray, and that's where I'm putting all my pastries once I've finished sizing them up. And I'm rolling them up into small balls like this. This will give me the pastry that I need. It's got to be the same size so I get the same size pastry. Like I said, don't stretch your board into making for you too wide pastries that cannot fit on your pan. If your pan is small, make the pastry small. Now I'm just rolling my pastry to make sure it comes out in a bowl that is easy for me to roll out. And this is how I make the balls. When you see any pastry that seems bigger than the others, just reduce it so that you get the same sized kind of pastry. I can still see one of mine is bigger. I'll have to downsize it so that it can be able to match up with the rest of the pastries. And you do this to all your pastries. So if you're going to do very few, by now you're done and ready to roll out. Now my balls are ready for kneading. I put my board. Now before I knead, I put some oil, just a little bit, and I smear it all over so that my pastry doesn't stick and makes it hard for me to remove. So once you've oiled your board, you remember you need a board and pin. You put out your pastry and roll. And I say do not overstretch it if the size of your tray is smaller or frying pan is smaller, because these pastries can be made in the oven and can be made on the gas or charcoal stove, whichever you whatever you have at home, you can still make them. So for those of you who are going to use the oven, you can make them as wide as you want, because the oven can take the size of the tray can take any size of pastry. Now this is the first one. I put it aside. I don't have to put it very far, somewhere close. Because my board is still oiled, I don't need to oil it again. The oil is meant to keep my dough from being stuck on the board. You try and make them into a circular shape. It may be hard, but you try. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but try and get a circle shape out of it. And they have to be the same size. Now, because my pan is not too wide, I'm not stretching them too much. I'll show you the size of my pan later. Now, I'm going to be doing 3 pastries at a time. So this is my third one, and I'll show you the next step after this, because I need only 3 for now, just to show you how it's done. Now after I've got the desired shape, time for me to go to the next step. I'm going to make 3 pastries in one go. So you get a teaspoon of oil and put on your pastry. You smear to every corner, because you're going to layer all your pastries together. And if you don't put oil all over your pastry, it will get stuck. And then it will be hard for you to detach. See how I've done? I'm now stuffing the next one on top. You make sure they come out the same size. Now this pastry is supposed to give me 4 samosas. You're wondering probably, how does that do it? You're going to see how it's done. Now this is the third one. I put it on top and stretch it to the size of the one beneath it. And I'll oil this one as well. When I'm done oiling, ensuring every corner is oiled, I flip them because I want even the bottom one to get that touch of oil, so that when they roll out, they all come out the same. The oil will help my pastry to stretch to the desired size. Now, time for me to roll. Because of the oil, it's slippery, but you need it that oily, because if it's not slippery, it will not stretch. But you have to ensure it's the same size. Now I want, like I said, 3 of them and all being the same size. So I stretch this one to be the same size as the other one, so when I roll out, all 3 will be the same size. So what you do, don't over oil yours if it's your first time to do it, because then probably you won't know how to roll it when it's too slippery. I'm going to stretch them, but not so wide, because I don't want them to be bigger than my pan. That could be a problem because the pan can only take its size. Anything else will not fit. You can gently do it and take your time until you get that desired pastry size. If it comes out small, no worries, because you can always, you remember you're at home and it's you making these samosas. So that to me is the size of my pan. Stretching it more than this would mean my pan will not be able to take it. But just to show you that even when I've used the pin and stretched it out, when it's 3 pastries, there are still 3 under there. I will show you. When you turn your board and try and lift off one, you will see that there are still 3. And every one of them is still you see how they are still separated? But I rolled them out as 3. See how they are still 3 sheets? Now I keep them that size and take them to the fire for roasting. That oil that I put earlier will help them not to dry up and give me soft pastries. Now let's turn on the heat and we'll see. Time for my cast pan to do its work. I love this pan and I dedicated it just to making pastries because it's old. It has served its time. So if you find yourself at home with a pan like this, you can dedicate it to making pastries. It's not sticking anymore, but it can roast for me those pastries. So on medium-low heat, like you can see there, I'm going to put my pan without any oil, let it heat up, and then put my pastry on there. Careful not to stretch them too wide because then they will not fit on the pan. So as you can see, I'm trying to put them down gently. You spread them out very well. If I had stretched my pan, my pastry too wide, there are chances it would not fit. So I stretched them just right. So be careful when you're doing it at home not to overstretch it, because overstretching would mean they won't fit in the pan, and those that won't get exposed to heat will not come out well. Now you let your pastry sit on fire until you see pockets of air forming on your pastry. Remember, they are layered 3 times. So because of that, the heat has got to come through even to the one on top. Now, also careful for your pastry not to burn, because if it stays too long and gets burnt, it will not bend and it will not fold. That means you will not have pastry good enough for your samosas. Now, as you can see, there are pockets of air starting to form. That's a sure deal that it's starting to rise. There's no oil in the pan, but it's on the pastry. Now, this is how we do it locally in Uganda. So if you've been in Uganda and they've served you samosas, this is how it has been done always. I'll flip it because I don't want to have my bottom one overheated. So I flip and give the other one at the bottom, at the top also, an opportunity to get to know the heat. See how it looks? I'll do the same. Wait for maybe about 2 minutes because we said medium-low heat until they start forming pockets of air. That will allow them to be able to make for me nice pastries that can separate easily, bend and fold as well. The moment you see the pockets of air, you know you have done it right, and they will be able to separate and give you nice pastries. Now, as you can see, my pastry has already formed. Time to take it off and show you what to do after here. Now, this is how our pastry looks when it has come off the fire. It looks like a wide chapati, but it's not. It's too thin. Now, see how I'm separating them? You do this when they are still hot, and you separate them. Once you've separated them, you fold them and put them away on a different tray. But as you can see, there are still the 3 ones that we made, if you can see very well. These ones, see how they are easy to fold? They are like good sheets that you can use to make so many things. So that means the heat has to be right. Now, time for me to cut up my pastry and show you how it will give me those 4 samosas that I talked about. I'll get my knife and then try and divide it into a half. Because my samosas have to be the same, I do the same to the other one, and that's how I would get 4 samosas. So if you don't calculate very well and your pastry is not divided well, some samosas will be bigger, others will be smaller. Now see how they are soft and easy. Now these are lighter than chapatis, so they are not chapatis, they are pastries. I'll put those on the side and do another one. Remember I said 40, so far I've got 4, and I'm looking to get another 4 for the first 3 that I handled. You do this when they are still hot, so that when they cool, they are already individual pastries. Here they are going to be ready for any stuffing, whether it is meat or peas. Like today for my demonstration, I'll show you my stuffing. We'll have peas and cabbage in there, potatoes in there. You can stuff yours with anything. I have leftover rice, so I'll use some of that to do samosas. So whatever you have in the house that is leftover, or even fresh products that you would want to use to make pastries, you can use them. See how my pastry looks? Now I'm going to show you how I would stuff my pastry. I'll get some grated cabbages. I'll add a spoon of my leftover peas. See, these are leftover peas, so I'll get a scoop out of them and then put it in there, and then mix my cabbage and peas plus potatoes and carrots, basically a vegetable samosa. Then I'll drop in some bit of oil because I don't want them to be dry in there. A teaspoon would be okay. Remember, your stuffing does not have to be made in bits. This is just to demonstrate, otherwise I'm going to grate more cabbage and then mix it with my leftover peas and just be able to stuff after that. Now I've got myself a spoon, the one that I use to scoop out the peas, and I would get my pastry like this, fold it. But before I go any further, remember I told you don't use up all your flour. So if you have some leftover flour like I do, this is my leftover flour. I'll get myself a bowl like this one. I'll put this on the side and then put my flour. Now this is full utilization of my ½ kilo of flour because I'm going to use this as a bonding factor for my samosas. See how much it is? It's not a lot, and I don't need a lot. It depends on how many samosas you're making. Now I'm dropping in there like 2 tablespoons of flour, of water. Then I'll mix my flour and water and make sure I get a mixture that is not too runny and yet not too thick. Just right. You just watch and see how it will come out. Now this will help seal my samosas very well. If I make it too runny, it will be hard for my mixture to seal the samosas. And also the size of your samosas depends on your desire. If you want them big, go ahead and make them really big. I want them smaller because the kids are more impressed by the smaller size. They're easy to eat and then they come back for more. Now that's how thick my mixture is. So I'll put away the water and then get my pastry. This is how it looks. I'll bend one corner and then bend the other corner just to measure and make sure I have a sharp point here. Sharp enough but also sealed, that there is no pouring when I put it to the oil. After I've established how my fold will be, I open it up and then put, using one finger, I smear all over the area that is going to be covered so that it seals. Even when it touches the oil, it will stay sealed. Guys, as you can see, this is not so hard like you probably thought it would be. Now after sealing that bit, there is this bit that is at the bottom that you can see. You can also go ahead and fold it. After you've done that, you have established a good pocket for your stuffing. So this is how my pastry would look like. Now to make sure it does not open, you hold the tip, this bit like this, and then stuff. Don't put too much, just measure the size of your pastry and then establish to which point you can fold. And then once you've got that right, making sure there are no spillovers because we want them nice and neat, you let go and then bend. But before bending, you seal off this bit. This is what will keep it sealed. So you rub it there and then bring this bit and seal. After folding, you seal. Having established where that other extra bit will be, and then your pastry has done the job. Remember, this video is not on how to make samosas. It's about the pastries. So in case you like what you see, go ahead and try it at home. and make yourself a nice samosa with no pockets of leakages, just right. And there you have it, guys. This is how my samosa would look, and that's my pastry. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing and telling friends. Until next time, bye bye and God bless.